All right. So since you guys really enjoyed my video about Audra Winters and her world building critique, I'm going to make one about Shadiversity because he is someone who's not, he's known to my other channel, and I do like kind of poking at him sometimes because it's very easy. And it's also interesting because I just like to see where it goes. So we're going to talk about his world building here. Now, keep in mind, sometimes I do not understand things the way that the author did. And I feel like maybe that is because of the author didn't write it well, especially if I feel like I can't understand what's going on. I'm only interpreting what is in the text. I'm not perfect. So if there's something I'm wrong about, feel free to correct me in the comments. Or if Shad wants to read this, not read this, but if Shad wants to comment on something I've gotten wrong, he can feel free to do that. I know he probably won't watch this because, well, why would he? But you guys will be excited because I also did make a little graph. So, because I found it very hard to understand what I was trying to get through my brain about this. So I did a little thing here for you when we get there. So what's wrong with his world? Well, we got to talk about the cosmology first. Cosmology is the stuff that's the universe in general, right? That's the planet and the outside of the planet stuff. So the world has a sun that is in a fixed position. And I know some of you guys thought that his world is a flat earth world, but it's really not. It's more a Skies of Arcadia world. Now, I know that some of you have not played Skies of Arcadia. Skies of Arcadia is a JRPG that came out in the late 90s and then again in the early 2000s, like 2003, 2004. Now, I did play this game. I know it very well. It's one of my favorite games. So I was able to spot it completely. When I saw this, he's taken various concepts from Skies of Arcadia and beaten it up enough that most people who have never played Skies of Arcadia would not understand this. But I have played it, so I know what he's taken from this. So Skies of Arcadia is a world that has islands and continents that are in the sky. And that is just how it's set up. There is a high sky and a low sky. There are stones that are used for various magics that, you know, make the world work. Now, Shad says, or Shad has said in the past or in general, that this is hard science and that's how he wanted to apply it to the world, because he has a math equation in here for how Sunstone works against Darkstone. But that's coming later. For now, we're talking about the other stuff. Now, I'm going to use Skies of Arcadia terms because in his world, he uses the barrier, but it's like, I feel like the barrier is hard to understand what the barrier is. So there is Telos, which is the continent. There's high sky and low sky. High sky you can't get through. Low sky you can't get through. Okay. And they both, I'm not sure if low sky has clouds, but high sky does have clouds, right? So, but you can't go through either part. And when you go off the edge, you just fall to nothingness. The surface is the surface. Nobody has seen the surface or knows what the surface is. It is very similar to a Skies of Arcadia that way. The surface is like nothingness. You go in the game, you do go there briefly, and there's nothing there except mud. So there's nothing to look at. And it has sky ships, airships, the way Skies of Arcadia does. So it's just it's very, very similar. Okay. So he also has this thing called the plummet. Now, what is the plummet? The plummet is like the moon. It's not moon shaped, but it is similar to a moon because his world is in perpetual light all the time. I think this is bad world building because he did not explain like how this affects the world around him and why people don't take advantage of it, how crops grow in everlasting light. Like, that's one of my biggest issues with this. I feel like when it comes to like having a forever light, he's not putting it in motion. Like, he's not making it real. Like, what daily life would be like that. The consequences, how people sleep, crops, wildlife, navigation. Like, how are people navigating if there's no stars? Like, are they just making shit up? Because that's how people did in the past time. He never put that together. Like, oh, hold on. Let's put up the thing. All right. So this is the thing I made. Now, this is the sun, and it has forever light that passes through the upper barrier. Now, the barriers are known that you can't go through, and if a stone touches it, you're dead, okay? That's the rule. That's the known rule. And right here in this line, this little line I made, is the barrier, okay? Now, not the barrier, sorry, the plummet. The plummet is a misshapen or shaped. I feel like I don't remember reading what shape it was in, but is essentially a moon, and it is in planet, and it goes up to top, up to down. It just goes up and down, and it portals itself back to the top. Once it hits the lower barrier, it goes whoop, back up top. I don't really like that mechanic. I think that it's very video gamey, and it doesn't feel like it makes a lot of sense. I feel like he could have, if he was really into that, I feel like he could have really played Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy 4, because both of those have moons that are in planet, sort of, because that's what I'm thinking. Because when it's like inner, like, I feel like he doesn't explain, is this plummet? And can I just say the names are also bad? I feel the names do no justice to understand, like, what these things are. Because I thought the plummet was, like, the mechanic for this piece of land going up and down. I was wrong. It is just a moon that goes up and down to signify high fall, which is morning time, low fall, which is non-nighttime, and mid-fall would be high noon. Now, the reason why the continent is like this is because there's dark stone underneath it that doesn't see light, I guess, and it's fixed in position. Now, if it's not touched by anything, it just stays in position. Now, things can fall off the edges, which is a thing, and because it's like, I'm not saying it's flat on top, but because it's not it's not special, it's just like one landmass, and the sun would basically be any way that the person wants to look at it, then I feel like this wouldn't be a very interesting world. It'd be very boring, in my opinion. So this is basically AM, PM. AM, PM. Now, anyway, I feel that this world doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's basically a Pangea that is just on the world, and we don't know anything about the surface, so it's just hovering there, and then there's a few more islands above the basic island. So let's talk a little bit more about Telos, which is the name of the continent, because right now I'm just, in general, I don't like how this is set up. I feel like it's been done better by other people. I feel like, in general, it would have been a better story if, for such a dark character, if he was there to bring back the dark and in turn welcomed light into his heart, right? You know, very similar to Shadowbringers, which Shadowbringers does have a, everlasting light expansion where you are the warrior of darkness bringing back the dark. I think that would have been very interesting. And, I think it would have been I think it just would have been better than what he decided to go with. Because what's the point of having a everlasting light type of world if you're not going to show the consequences, and you're going to make all these weird things up just to have an AM and a PM? You're going to make a fake moon that doesn't really do anything. Like, I feel like he was trying to work in, like, Earth stuff to make it look like hard science, but it is reflected poorly because there's no consequences to anything. And his one rule that he has that's a known fact is immediately like skipped over because of his main character. So now we're at the inner world part, right? Where we're inside the planet. Now he says that near the rim, chunks of the land are carried off by wind, water, and storm, and they're pulled down to join the transcontinental current, which is a current underneath the planet. So my problem with this is that it sounds like the world is just being drained into a pipe, but it's never coming back. He doesn't explain how the Earth comes back and reconnects. There's no funnel that refunnels back. So is the world consistently getting smaller? How long until it's completely small? Is it going back to the surface? Is it being thrust back down? It doesn't say anything. I feel that maybe Shadiversity, he needs a little bit more knowledge about like earth science. If you want to apply earth science stuff, I feel like you need to learn more earth science stuff, right? You need to learn about astronomy. You need to learn how people did things. I feel that there is a lack of this stuff in this book because I feel because he based it on Skies of Arcadia a little bit too much. He wanted to make his own version, and if it was me and I was going to rip off of Skies of Arcadia, I probably wouldn't have had it have a forever day or a forever whatever. I would have just used the Darkstones as every continent underneath had the Darkstone. All of them. All of them had it. And that's why they sit in a fixated position. But then at some point, there is a night, and then there is a night pattern, because there's no point in having no night pattern unless you're going to show it. So just have a night pattern. Just have moons and shit. Skies of Arcadia is like 6 fucking moons. So now they're having consistent issues with erosion and interior soils, and like things like aquifers couldn't exist, like wells with water would just not happen because it's just being tugged down. So there's also the hydrology. We're told about erosion and outward winds near the rim, but not where rivers go off the edge, ionized into mids, recaptured with fog. Like, where is the water going? The water will leave if it doesn't come back. Like, not how soil is moistured, aquifers are replenished inland, like literally nothing. And I know some of you guys would be like, well, that doesn't matter. But the point is that he made a world where things are very different. And if you're going to make a world that has different things, you're going to have to show why we need those things. And you're going to have to show, like, people are going to have questions, and you're going to need to have an answer for them. Even if you just have a small little tell answer. Like, a great way to show, like, maybe how the water cycle works would be, like, maybe the way it reacts, maybe the way that water reacts to storms, or maybe the way it reacts to darkstone or lightstone or sunstone. Maybe how those, maybe that mixture causes the water to just basically be reused and come back up, like something like that. Maybe the transcontinental current is a U shape, and what comes down and then comes around. Like there's crazy thoughts that you could put there, Shad, but I feel like you didn't want to spend too much time on it. Maybe you spent too much time world building and didn't think about the science behind it too much, or maybe you thought too much science and didn't want to put it in your story. But in general, the atmospheric stuff, the water cycle, bad. It feels like the world is forever like eroded. I don't know how you would have. It would be hard for me to believe this world is existing while it's also constantly dying without a reason. Because you know what it reads like? It reads like weather is a vibe. Like, it reads like weather is definitely a vibe than a system. You get some sensory, like, things happening, but when the story needs farms, it just cuts to rain or overcast or having clear weather, never predictable belts or fog that would like make a closed loop kind of thing. And let's talk about my favorite thing now, the biomes. You guys know how I feel about biomes, and I feel like if you're doing biomes, you're probably, oh god, biomes. Unless there's magic involved in the biomes being separated and close to each other, I literally am just like, come on. If it's magic, it's different, okay? If it's magic, and magic is why there's biomes and separate and but close, that's cool. But if there's no magic, I always got a problem with it. Like, based on what he's written, there should be some near the rim should be some very different biomes. Like maybe salt tolerant flora, maybe erosional badlands, some interior aridity, unless there's some kind of defined moisture return. Let's see what else. Like, his biomes should be weird. They shouldn't really be like normal biomes. So, because there's like light all the time, farms should at mid-latitude look normal, and they shouldn't, because there's no natural night to cue like plant flowering or animal behavior, yet like fields are filled with like earth temperate staples and spring tillage, as if there is a day length and there is seasons that are normal. The text doesn't cultivate like things that have adapted to consistent light, or maybe like photo period type strains, and maybe why farm practices that are in fake darkness like blackout canopies, shuttered greenhouses, it's just like ordinary fields. Like the narrative does have like overcast mimicking the Shadowlands gloom, but that's like a mood. It's not an ecological system. So because you would expect some harsh rim biome, it should have like tough vegetation, a lot of dunes maybe, but we get like hedge-grown, like English countryside vibes right next to an eroding edge. Like, you can make it pretty, but I feel like it would be very rocky, or dunes or whatever. I feel like it can't be beautiful because literally it's being eroded away. And it's like the severity of that issue isn't in the wind regimen for how the flora and the fauna kind of hang out. You gotta explain it. Like I always bring up my Vost Woods because it's crazy in there. Now, the Vost Woods, like I said, it doesn't have different biomes. It has micro biomes, I would say, inside of it. And inside each has different colored trees, and what live there is different colors. It's very colored based, but it's not just vibes. So I put these things in different colors so that I could remember them, and so they're easy to recognize. So, but I haven't fully fleshed it out, so this is a summary, right? So there is a purple location, and in the purple location, there's a lot of poisonous things there. The air is a little bit poisonous. Just the things that live there are poisonous, and it just happens to be that way because there is the soul seer that goes through my world, and because the soul seer is a magic tree that is the life tree of the planet, the Vost Wood is weird. So it's just weird because of the magic that it comes from. Now, the Vost Wood is a very specific place, and you can walk through the Vost Woods, but it's very difficult, and a lot of people don't want to really go through it. They want to go over it, or they want to go around it. There are people that live in the Vost Wood. It's the light elves, right? But they're like, they know the wood. The dark elves, for example, don't know the wood, so they would prefer to go around it, above it. They don't want to go in it. Anyway, I feel like the rainfall patterns also in his world should be very odd, but they're not depicted. They're just normal. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to show his map because I feel like he did a lot of work on this map. So we're going to look at it right now. Okay, so as you guys can see here, I want to talk about Talatea, this place right here. All right, so in this town here, they say that they can smell blubber, and they can see sky whales being skinned, and hear about the trade in skyfish/whale. Strong industrial color, but the land side around the port doesn't read like it's a unique edge biome, shaped by like outflow spray or scavenger species or anything like that. It's just a normal busy port with a fish smell. Like, I feel like it would have a different smell. It would definitely be different. He has all this opportunity to maybe create a new smell. What like air fish would be like. I feel like if you have air species, I do have a little bit of air species. I have air whales, but I haven't really done much about that. So I'm not going to go into it, but I feel like if fish smell really rank and very strong, I feel that if they're air creatures, you have to think about, how do air creatures smell? Like, do you even smell them in the air? No. Like, I feel like you could have used, like, it smells like ozone. And some people have smelled ozone before. You know when you stand next to a printer? You know that smell that it gives off when it's printing? And it's like a hot It's a hot, weird smell. That's the ozone smell. I feel like maybe you could have used that to explain it, or maybe you could have said maybe hot pollen, or I feel like you could have gone with something different. This is more of a nitpick with your choice on not making things different enough for how different you wanted the world. You wanted a different world, but you wanted to just make it a generic. Like, it comes across generic when you're not creating things that make sense. Okay? When you're putting together a fantasy world, try to step out of your comfort zone, especially if it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be a whole different world. That's supposed to be fantasy. It's supposed to give people like a new, fresh feeling. And if they're just seeing the typical harbor town on the edge of like the sky world, like, does it have mist? Oh, you know what you could have done? Oh, you know what would have been great? You know that smell that comes like desert? In the desert when, what's it called? In the desert after it rains, it has this really nice smell. You could have made it like similar to that. When there's a lot of like air fish or air creatures in general, or you're close to them, there is a smell. Like when you're in the sea, I would assume that there is a sea smell, right? It smells a little fish air. Like when you're standing on the edge of, like, when I went to Rhode Island, we were standing in the Millionaire's Row, and there's like a smell that comes off the water. It's a big body of water. It's salty, breezy, has a little bit of a fish odor. It's not fishy, but it's similar. And when I stand next to the lake, because it's a freshwater lake, it doesn't have big fish in it. It's different. It smells different. I can't even think of what the smells like, because it always smells like a fresh day. When you're out there, it smells like a fresh day. But when it rains, it smells like shit. So overall, there is edge economy without edge ecology. I feel like people who would go near the edge, if the edge is always falling apart, there would need to be I can't even think. Okay, we can't even talk about his issue with the edge anymore, because it just breaks it for me. So we're just going to assume that there is no falling edge because it's dumb. So still, there would be edge stuff, and it would be special. So maybe there would be only things that you could get on the edge. There would only be plants that live on the edge. There would only be animals that live near the edge that are special they would have their own little microclimates based on what's happening near the edge. I feel like it would be not similar to a coastal town, because it can't be that unless it's in certain areas. It would just need to be more special. You would need to make up a climate special for your book. And the only place that's actually different is the Shadowlands. And I feel like, for it being a big part of his map, I feel like he didn't really divulge it enough. Okay, so with the Shadowlands, it has a gloom on it, and I don't know if he meant that gloom to be just overcast, or if it's an actual shadow, or... Okay, anyway, there are loads of questions I have about the Shadowlands. None of them have answers, and I'm just going to talk about it, because it's literally like, it's a small part of the book, but I feel like even if it's small, it's significant because of what it's saying about the setting, okay? So in general, there is a shadow, self-imposed shadow, a dim, a gloom, hanging over the Shadowlands. The Shadowlands is a significant area, bottom part of the map, right? It has a fixed shadow that would usually require a fixed light direction, because it says that the sun is an observer constant sun. So the book never shows the geometry or anything, and how one would keep one end of the continent in darkness while the rest is bright. Like, I believe that there would have been a constant over it, but we're going to go look at his map right now, and you're going to see that there's nothing over it. This is his map. Let's look at this. Look, here's the map on the basic area, and here's the map above. So there is some floating isles, there is this spot and this spot. There's nothing hanging over this area, the Shadowlands. So there's no reason for it to be in a gloom, in a darkness, in whatever. Like, how is it self-shadowing? How does it do that? Like, where does that come from? It doesn't explain how it's cast, but it introduces it. It says because, like, so little can grow there, it's uninhabited, it's, I don't know, it's different than the rest of the, it's different than the rest. It's just different from the rest. Because you can't have a permanent self-shadow. You need, like, a global light direction, right? If there's a shadow there. But if the text is, no matter where you look, the sun is constant at the same angle, there's not like a world fixed direction that can make a continent scale cast a shadow. Like, this is silly. It's silly. And he should have never introduced it or made it some magic shit. Make it some magic shit. Like, just because it says little can grow, like, Shad just hand waves the expected microclimate. He doesn't even, I feel like he didn't even want to deal with that, even though he mentioned it enough so that people want to be curious about it, but not enough that you actually want to develop it. You should have developed it if you were going to mention it in your book. Like, there could have been a fog forest, like perpetual light coming from outside. There would be like a gradient, shade tolerant, like flora and creatures. Like, people know what moss is, understory plants, like mushroom shit. Don't just say nothing grows, dude. You can't just say it's uninhabited. It's not truly uninhabited. And we have more hydrology issues. Like, what are you doing? It feels like it doesn't fit with the rest of the hydrology of the world. There's no, like, transition. What's its, like, seasons like? Just, it's dumb. Like, I feel like in a place like the Shadowlands, I feel like it might actually be super dangerous, and there might be special stuff that's there because it's in shadow all the time. No, like, this, it just reads like you don't have enough environmental information. And let me tell you guys, if you don't have enough environmental information, you guys got to look it up if you're going to mention it in your book. And if you don't know the schematics on how to do something, just ask somebody on r/worldbuilding. Or, you know, fuck it, like, ask me. Ask me a question. I'll help you. I'll literally help you. If I can answer it, I'll answer it for you. Like, they say it's like heavy overcast, but you don't realize that the sun does come in through overcast. Even if it's a little bit, there's still light. And some of the characters say that it's too like night in quotations, and no one's uncomfortable around it. I feel like no one's uncomfortable around the Shadowlands being mentioned or thought about. You just made it generic. It's just generic, like, area nobody goes to. Boring. Boring. You could have actually written a whole novel about that area. That would have been interesting. So one of his biggest issues is no sharp, like, eco gradients. I feel that should be definitely a thing that he should put in his books if he ever plans to write another one, which I don't think he will. But yeah. So I did also want to talk a little bit about his map. Now, in general, this map does look good, but there are a few critiques that I would say you need to fix based on my knowledge, okay? I am not the best at this type of thing. I think I'm pretty good. I would say I am, like, if you had to rate me, I would say like an 8 out of 10. Usually I can look at maps and kind of understand what you're going for. But if I see anything that's really troublesome, I'm going to point it out. Now, I've explained before that I use fractal terrains, which fractal terrains will make you a planet. And it will include the rivers and things and the mountains, and they will all be correct and they will all work. Okay? Everything else, after you make the map, you'll have to adjust yourself, obviously. I'm willing to forgive a lot because I don't expect everyone to have the same knowledge that I do. So we're going to talk about this map for a minute. So a lot of the drainage and reliefs on his stuff, they're not solid. They're not bad. They're just not solid. It's really a nitpick to me, so I'm just going to go over it. Crossing divides where some of the rivers seem to cut straight through mountain belts with no depicted pass or broad valley and then resume in another basin. 1 or 2 such cuts can happen, but many look accidental. Like, I'm surprised that there's no canyons in his world. I feel like there needs to be more canyons. Okay, so around this area should be a canyon, specifically. There's also Oops. There's also over here in this area, there is unclear what happens to this water. I would sooner pull this back and then have a canyon and then there it goes, because that's kind of what you're working with. That's what you created. But I am not going to nitpick the entire map because it would just take too long. So overall, it's okay. I know he took a lot of liberties. I feel like someone maybe helped him with it, but he needs, I don't expect maps to be super accurate, but I feel like when you have things like canyons and rivers that hop straight to the mountains, like maybe fix those. I would say fix those and maybe ignore some of the other things if other people say anything. So now we're going to talk about the Sunstone, Darkstone stuff, but I want to talk about his fall, right? Since it's the first chapter, I feel everybody knows about this fall. So when he falls, he is wearing a Sunstone pendant and a Darkstone ring. Now, the rule is that if a stone touches one of the barriers, you die. Okay, so he decides to just fall off. He just fell off. One of the things that I think is silly is he describes how long it would take to do XYZ, right? Because I feel it takes away from the feeling and emotions. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but this is it's just a little... It's just a little story part. I'm just going to say it, okay? I'm just going to say it, okay? I'm just going to say it. So he makes this point that the character is falling at 200 kilometers an hour. It would take about a half an hour for him to pass Telos, right? And then another 9 hours to reach the barrier, the invisible point where a man stopped falling to the base of the world that fell from the top. So he just is hovering in the air for 9 hours. I think I would think differently about my sewer slide. Even if I was a terrible villain, I'd be like, bruh, I probably should have done something different. This is taking too long. 9 hours? Damn. I'd be 4 hours. Then I'd be like, I'm sleepy. I'm hungry. I want to go back into my bed. What's this 9 hour fall? I get it. He wanted to make it realistic, but you don't describe the whole thing. You would literally it's literally cartoon shit. It's cartoon shit. It's like that one scene from, what's it called? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Let me find it. All right, I found it. Here we go. Look, it's like this shit.
Hey, what's up, Doc? Jumping without a parachute? Kinda dangerous, ain't it?
Yeah.
It's literally the main character.
That's nice. Yeah?
Yeah, but I don't think you want it.
I do. Give it to me. Better let him have it, Bug.
Okay, Doc. Whatever you say. Here's the...
It's just silly. It's just silly. It's hard for me to take him seriously. I feel like even if you're going through an emotional roller coaster, I feel like even if you're at your weakest and your saddest, if you've been the thing is, okay, the thing with sewer slide, I feel because he did something like jump off a cliff, you know that when you get to the end, you're gonna perish. But if the end is 9 hours, you're gonna get hungry and you're gonna get sleepy. You could have a nap while you're in the turbulent air. But anyway, this is the moment that he breaks his own lore. So the moment he touches it with both of the things on, he just de-ages and is back on the planet. Not the planet, back on the continent again. And I feel because he spends so much time in wherever he is afterwards, I feel like he spent almost an entire chapter or more having the character experience and tell me things. So anyway, okay, we're going to be talking about this Darkstone, Sunstone stuff now. Now, it kind of makes it a rule that a Darkstone does nothing unless there's light, so it's just locked. So Sunstone equals motion, right? And the right Sunstone behaves like a normal rock, and it's used for propelling, and that's how it's used in engines and stuff. I feel like the equation, which is L equals M minus 1D L squared, is used to compute the minimum sunstone size needed to nullify a given darkstone when touched but the variables units aren't defined. Like, what does 1DL intensity, distance? I think it's like darkstone and length. I mean, this is more, it feels more like flavor. That's what I would say. It's like more like flavor. I feel like you could easily not even put that in there. So it has this thing that is said where it says here, like this, it has like a reactionless drive economics without the economic fallout. So let me explain it. It says machines powered by light, a never-ending resource. Plus, darkstone will move proportionally to light strength, and engineers install safeties to avoid like too much like acceleration / whiplash, and the text nods to safety failures. But like, there's no consequence of having these things. So it's like the fact that they have this cheap energy, like what would happen to the market, warfare, industry, like cities, they're never priced in. So they just have them. And because he just has these things, like you can input things that you just have, but you have to show that there's like a price. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like having an abundance light that you can use to make things work, and it just forever works, like it's solar powered. Maybe you need to like have maybe where it's not, I mean, it would have to run out at some point. You can't just run everything forever. You can't just run a car forever if you have enough gas in it. And on top of that, I feel like because the Sunstone, Darkstone thing that happens in the beginning of the book, I feel like because it does that thing where it de-ages him and all that nonsense, it makes the plot feel stupid, because I feel like someone else would have figured this out. The fact that it's just him right now makes no sense. Like, I feel like someone would recognize people from their past if they knew they could just do this thing. Someone had to experience before. I feel it would be written in some book. Someone tried it before. Someone had this before. It's too much of a coincidence. It just seems convenient. Maybe it is known that if you use both stones, something different will happen to you, but maybe in all the books you never figure it out. Maybe people lied about it. Maybe people, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you put in there that he would simply think, maybe I just want this one thing to happen. Like, instead of it being sewer slide, it could be that he goes and he lives on the surface and he feels like, oh, my life is so bad. I feel like I should be isolated, and now I'm going to live on the surface. So now he is on the surface, or he believes he's on the surface. But in reality, what happened to him, but it was just like nobody talked about it because people don't want people to abuse it. So people would lie about what happens, and he would assume one book. It could be something that he finds along the way too, where there's multiple people this happened to, and he would, like, this would be a more better connecting story, is he actually runs down to find out other people this might have happened to, or books, because the character seems to be very smart, or appears to be very smart, or is written to be smart. So I feel like he would want to go after things that are like him and figure out what's the truth from what's a lie. Maybe even though he's de-aged, he will suddenly come across his age all of a sudden. Like, maybe it'll just hit him all at once. Maybe there's like different things happen to different people, right? Like in my world, I have the monolith, right? The monolith lives about 300 years, and they're usually born when there is time, when there is a time for them, because they're similar to the Avatar, right? So they're not completely the Avatar, but similar, because they're born every 300 years. Now, I'm not going to explain everything, but some of the magic that they learn is very rare and is only written in books. So for them to learn whatever things, they would need to track down where those books are. And then they would have to try them out, because they would only have what's there. And if I wanted the character to know more or learn more, I would have to have the character experiment with that, because like I have death magic and I have faith-based holy magic. Now, for a character who is neither, like a monolith who's neither, it would be very hard for her to learn both of those, even though it would be required for her to learn them, because she would be essentially reading off of books and not able to practice, because they're like hand motions, right? Think Avatar, where they make motions. They make body gestures and stuff like that. So how would they know the gestures? And for example, faith-based magic is like very, like, that is very complicated for people to learn. You have to have blind conviction to do that. So for you to have to like really believe, like hard in your soul, while learning something, it would be a difficult learn. It would be difficult. So for example, I have a character who is a monolith, and she's like a holy, I call it in my world, it's like not holy magi, but it's sancta magi, and she has blind faith in her religion, and that is what gives her, she's like an advanced user, even though she doesn't know she's an advanced user, but she's the only user that is advanced that she knows because she believes so strongly in her religion. And non-practicing characters could have the same power, but it would be the power to believe in yourself. So like, I would put a character like Naruto to have like that power if I wanted him to be able to use it and know it, because he believes in himself. If you can believe that it works and believe truly deep down, it will work. But it comes with limits, all my magic. But anyway, back onto this Sunstone stuff. Another thing is, it's never explained where the Sunstone and Darkstone come from, or how they're refined, how scarce they are, yet people are selling Darkstone at 100 grams, which is the currency. I don't know. Like, I don't have any idea how much that is. Like, is that expensive? It seems like it's a scarcity it seems like it's scarce. So I would assume 100 grams is expensive. Like, it's like the energy is free, but the hardware isn't. But the book doesn't like show that supply chain. So there's also the safety around it is specific, but the urban stuff, like the culture to use it around it isn't. We get stuff like hub shifts, lockouts, altitude regulator, like stuff that would be in a ship, I guess. But then in cities, they're completely off the page, and we're literally in like ports and traffic. It reads like it's just inside of a vacuum to me. It says that like uniform light equals like normal rock collides with like an earlier force. So I feel like this is a little bit overcomplicated for me, but I'm just going to try to explain it. Like, if the light exerts force, symmetric light should result in like zero acceleration, not normal rock behavior. But I feel like it's hand wavy. You should not be hand waving your system. Don't hand wave your magic system. There's stuff you can hand wave, but the hard parts of your world you can't hand wave because it just makes you look dumb. And really, I could say more, but I think I have said everything I need to say about the Sunstone and Darkstone thing. There is like one thing extra. I feel like because of how he broke his world, that there would be something that would happen downstream because of this. Like maybe cults, laws we don't know that are in other places, experiments. There would be something. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the magic system. I feel like we're finally there. Now, so you know how I mentioned the Sunstone, Darkstone, stuff? So there's different lights, and this is kind of where they collide kind of issues. So not only does the Sunstone have light that it gives off, people have light that they give off, and it waxes and wanes based on their moral goodness. Animals are steady bright, and like the shades are like voids. So the problem with this, just this little thing, is that you've got a physical light with a precise-ish behavior and a moral light that's used for detective and gating. Now, the book never like unifies them, yet the powers are treated like light is a reserve, like a mana, and that vagueness feels like it's cherry picking. Sometimes light is a force, sometimes it's a conscious. It's like, I don't know. So we're gonna get back to that equation, and it means that like how much luminous threshold, how much light is needed to budge a Darkstone, and cross it on the vertical axis and you plummet. Okay, I don't know if I'm right on that. I feel like I'm getting a big old guess because I am not a math person, and even though it's a simple algebraic equation, I'm an idiot because it feels like it's like instant acceleration, but there never seems to be any overlighting accidents, no whiplash, no logistics, no problems. It just is like everything works. It's there to like The equation is there to justify whatever is happening. And it feels like, oh, I have an equation. Okay, here's everything. Like, when you have something like this, having a hard rule is great because then people will trust you. But only if, like, a scene bumps into it, right? So everything is, like, safe. You make everything safe. Like, you can even just show something happening as a pass-by to make your world feel more alive. Like, it would even have to be brief. It would be like, your characters are walking, and then a light, I don't even know what you'd call it, like an airship accident happens overhead, and your character sees it from above, and then it's like, oh, and then everybody knows what it is. They go, oh, that's a whatever that is up there, and that makes it look like, oh yeah, these things are probably fucking dangerous. And because the stones are part of the magic system, hitting a barrier with 2 stones makes like kind of like a mini god or like a situation. I feel like, I don't know, like nobody's reacting to what made that happen. And there's also like, Dalen proves that there's no connection between the Order's mandate and their powers. Anyone could receive an Arknight's powers if they only knew how. We're told about the Vigil, the Order's initiation. 1 in 3 die during this, and the Order blames impure hearts, but the scene suggests that the process that's lethal. Okay, so when we're talking about the Vigil, they basically go on a skyship and they fly towards the sun, and some people die and some people become Arknights, I guess, and people have become light binders if they only knew how. And I assuming only knew how means that if they only knew how Dalen did it. So now we got to talk about the type of light magic users there are. Okay, so there's Lightbringers, there's Arknights, and there's Lightbinders. So Arknights are institutional Lightbinders with a mythic oath that, well, the text itself just kind of says, fuck that. No, we're not doing that. There's Lightbinders with their like crunchy numbers and limits until the plot needs to flex them. And Lightbringers, they're like OP. They get creation, healing, telekinesis, massive unpriced economic effects. The whole system is treated like both physics and morality without one coherent rulebook. I think maybe he should have tightened that up a little bit. Maybe make the morality light inside you like a different type of system than the one that he talks about that's the other kinds, because I feel like the too many same name thingies are going on, liable to get people confused, because it feels like a barrier exploit can mint new like Lightbinders. The society barely reacts. It makes it feel like the system is plot selective rather than rule driven, which is how it should always be, is rule driven. So Lightbinders can channel light into bonds like physical stats, mass, senses, healing, limited by channeling fatigue. Arknights join the Order and survive the Vigil, treated as a moral authority. A Lightbringer is a miracle worker who creates matter, heals, and moves things. Cannot move things in true darkness. It says power doesn't drain, only through output like limits applies. Now we're going to talk about what's wrong with each group. So for the Arknights, the Order says the oath unlocks the power, but the evidence shows that the Vigil / procedure is the real way to do it. Now, I feel like what he could have done here is made it that if you have a good moral inside, you don't die when you hit the barrier. I feel like that would have fixed it. So there's a secrecy about doing this thing. It says, like, if the rite is just a dangerous process, then, like, people should try to, like, get rid of it. Like, if people feel it's dangerous, people should try to stop it, or people want to do it more. But everyone's like, meh. Alright, so I'm not going to talk about the bonds. To me, boring math shit. Boring math shit I don't care about, that I feel was just not needed at all. Anyway, so for Lightbinders, they have some math shit that I don't care about, but they have inconsistent ceilings that are exceeded without an exception to the rule. They got a stamina heal loop where they can like infinitely do things. It's not taught or anything. It's not something you have to get. You just have it. So it's like Mary Sue territory where you just get a superpower that infinitely does everything for you. And like it grants like life virtue sensing, and no one's like curious as to how to stop that in the world. Like there should be something like, for example, I think it would be great if like maybe they can't detect people who are very neutral. So people who are very neutral are wanted in the world, or maybe they can't detect people who are darkness because they literally can't see them, you know, like something. Or maybe you could become dark artificially through like, you know, depression or something. It seems like you can just do some OP shit. There's also, I don't know if it's something Dalen can do, where he can like make himself weigh more, and he can make himself weigh so much more that the earth should literally just fall away from him as he walks, because it's just stupid. I feel like they just needed, Shad just needed different names. These are, the names really make it hard to keep up with, except for the Arknights. Lightbringer and Lightbinder sound too much the same. And here are issues with all three of them. Like, you know, like there's two meanings of light. There's no arms race when people figure out that you can do what Dalen did. Like no one's just jumping off the continent and taking 2 stones and just, you know, becoming young again and doing it over and over and over. Try to take control of the world. I'm sorry. So, Darkstone thresholds and the Insta-Excel stuff imply, like, training and inspections and laws. You gotta show me. You can't tell me. You gotta show me. His book is a lot of tell. A lot of tell. Not a lot of show. I mean, it could be cool if it wasn't mid. It's mid. And there's also, like, no macro economy, because a librarian can just make money. They can make anything of value, but refrains from by moral reasons. Not everyone would do that. Like, there's no anti-counterfeit regimens, markets, like limiting bringers from inflating economies. If the creation is common, I feel like all of the things like guilds and stuff would be redesigned. If rare, show why. Like taboos, for example, it's a world-breaking power, but it's like a character quirk. It's like, oh, I can do this funny thing with the money. So there's also the little miracles, and it feels like selectively moral. Bringers like have a thing about making themselves rich, and they emphasize selflessness, but then the same time is like, I'm gonna make food, and I'm gonna make objects, and I'm gonna make money. The problem is that there's no costs. There's no costs, ever, with anything. Everything in the world has no costs. So let's talk a little bit about the culture that he's created. So it feels like everything feels asserted, like this is the way it is. Like people are like, why? Often with like just saying one thing rather than showing everyone. So there's Maine, and it's explained the Mainish were by far the loudest and most contrary people in all the world. And then explains this is a universalized haggling that turns into the most basic conversations into shouting message. There's nothing tying this actually to them. It's just a personality trait. And then there's also like when he mentions like Leb's speech as being lowborn Maine accent, it says it's kind of suggesting there's a class. Like it would suggest like lowborn linguistics come out rather than a punchline. So we get like, this is a loud contrarian instead of a mechanism. Port levy rules, auction houses, you know, like the accent note is class coded without there being a class. You have to do something. Like in my what country is it? Which country do I have it? We think there's a class system in the Dark Elves. They're kind of black coded, and when I talk about them, they are like, so they live in the Northern Territory in the like basically in the tundra, and because like they have a value of dark skin, right? So they value the darker your skin is, the more valuable you are, because it's dark almost all the time there. Not 100%, but a lot of the time it's dark. And because it's dark there, you have to hunt in the dark, you have to be in the dark, so it's beneficial for you to be dark in the dark. So if someone like comes out where they're a little bit pale, or they're half, and they're a light shade of gray, they're considered lesser, right? They're lesser because of their shade of skin. It's like, it is colorism, but it's colorism that I think is an interesting class system. So, for example, there's a lot of mixing in the kingdom, because it's a dularchy, I don't know, where it's like two types of rulers at the same time, or it's two families that are ruling, and there's some lighter skin tones in there. And for example, like they also have a thing where there's a astral rune that can only be worn by women, and when the royal family doesn't actually have any women to wear it, they need to go like to their younger, like to different like heirs that are like, you know, the cousin heirs type thing. And my character, I can't remember her name right now, but let me go find her name. Oh, okay, her name is Yiffin Lavendale. So she is a lighter, like a medium light gray, and she gets the Astral Dawn rune, and she's kind of hated by the public because they feel like they've given it to someone who is low, someone who shouldn't be in her position because she isn't like the right person to have it. Even if she's royalty, she's not the right color, but she's the only one that can have it because they're all males, and she just ends up running away with it because she can't stand being like hated for something she can't do anything about. So anyway, now we're talking about gentry. It's kind of like mentioned in passing. It says the people of gentry fight to the death in duels to settle personal disputes with some logic about first blood or some shit, and not proving a true victor. It's all exposition, by the way. We don't see guilds, courts, coroner rules, nothing, insurance, nothing. We don't see anything. It's just mentioned. Like a national character trait is dropped as a rule, but then no one ever does anything about the rule. It's just there. Okay, so this is something that I'm kind of back and forth about. I feel like this came from Maggie, or it could have come from somewhere else. It's very anime coded, but I don't find that's not actually the problem. So the problem is he's made like skin and hair as in like a national essence, right? So like the color. So the Terrasia people have bright yellow hair and show off far more skin than the locals. Maine has dark blue hair. Fade Gentry has red hair. It's just, I don't know. It's just more casual than it is like a part of who they are and the climate that they live in or whatever. Like, they're not showing why these things exist. Like, in my world, I have 15 different hair color types and 15 different eye color types. And the rule is that people who have the same hair and same eyes as their magic type are more powerful than those who have just one or the other. That's basically the rule. So people get super surprised when their children are born and they, they reflect it. Because they treat magic type kind of like an XY chromosome. You have to you can carry genes of other magic types, but whatever magic type you are, you have to express it. You can't hide it. You can pretend to be something else, like a Vita Maggie can pretend to be like a Necro Maggie and vice versa, because both of them are green. Unlike a Shadow, like a Umbra Maggie and a Water Maggie, they both have they're both blue, so someone could just lie on the surface anyway. And for another part of the society thing, they have child labor, but the system that enables it is not well thought out. So we see that they have collared slaves and how their collars encode them, right? So those doing menial tasks were collared slaves, steel collars for criminals, copper for I wanted to become a slave, and the date of how long they have to be enslaved is etched on their collar. Now, I have a similar thing with collars, but it's called a negation collar. And you know what? I'm not going to go into it too much, but I do have a similar thing, but it's not like this. It's different. So they also have child factory labor. It's normalized, harsh, and justified as progress. They're worked to death in conditions that no person would expect for progress. They do supply to meet demand of the industrialization of the world. I have feelings about that. I'll wait until I'm done. Dalen says that he, banned this. They were free from child labor. He organized and liberated the slave laws, so no one could be sold into slavery by, bandit stuff, and made child and I don't know how to say it, but a physical act done by adults illegal, and no one can execute slaves without a crime fitting the penalty. But it doesn't really matter if it's still in practice, so I feel like mentioning it was pointless. He's I got rid of this thing that happened when I was in height of my power, but it's still here? I wonder why. So this is what's missing to make these things a thing. So we see that they have the steel and copper collars, and the penal slaves are sold for the time of their sentence. But the book doesn't show who sentences people, how the due process is, how the appeals work, if there's even an appeal system, where you're accused of a crime and you just are guilty and you're a slave now. It doesn't show how the collars are removed, what happens at the end of term. It seems like nobody's even checking on people. It's just, I don't know, it seems pointless. Voluntary slavery lacks consent. If they're like voluntary, but the narrative doesn't define a contract, who can sign under what duress? What are the terms and rights? Is this debt, indenture, sale of labor, whatever? And how are children signing away their rights? I kind of have a thing where they don't ever explain why the slavery stuff comes back, only that it is back. There's no market around the slavery stuff. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, where are these people being bought? How long are they bought for? Do they get any money? You know, like, do they get taken care of? Like, it doesn't really say anything. I think he wanted it for edginess. Like, I feel like, wouldn't like a light bringer or a light binder, I don't know which, I have a hard time keeping up which one. One of them can detect the virtue. Couldn't you just like look at the, like, sense it and like be a judge and then be like, okay, this is right, this is wrong? I don't know. Seems like a lot of it's not explained here. There's just no institutions, contracts, prices, enforcement. It just is. It's all cosmetic. It's all cosmetic. So overall, Shadiversity's book has I would say, even more issues than Audra Winter's book. And it makes Dalen a Mary Sue, well, a Gary Stu, who can't learn anything. Like I said, I'm not here mostly to talk about the story, but he doesn't actually learn anything in the plot. I wouldn't tell anyone to read it. But he's supposed to be a character who's learning to be good, but he's not learning to be good. He's just being bad again. And I think it would have been more interesting if you actually did the learning to be good, and maybe if you took my suggestion of like bringing back the darkness. Like, as an example, he's completely inconsistent. There's flashbacks that interrupt the present day action without clear thematic connection or narrative purpose, and he does a lot of info dumping. As you could tell, it reads more like a manual with a little bit of story mixed in between. He doesn't spend a lot of time on character building, which he should do, because that's why people come back. That's why people come back to stuff, like all different kinds of authors, right? And here I am mentioning again that a better book was already written that was like a villain, and it was The Prince of Thorns. If you want to see a villain like do villain shit and like actually be fun, like just read that. It's better. He should have read that book. That character's a terrible asshole, but he's like likable. Like, you want to like him. Like, you want to hang out with him while he's doing shitty stuff. Like, let me just name something he did. Like, I found it actually fun. I laughed when I read it. He had sex with a prostitute, and one of his gang members comes in and wants to talk to him about something that was really important, and he had like a whore with him that he had just finished doing whatever with, and he was reading a book, and then when she like tries to get up, he pushes her down, and then he continues to like read a book on her ass, and she's like clearly uncomfortable, and she's like trying to go, and he makes her stay. And when she mentions, she's like, oh, I gotta get back to my worker, he's gonna get real mad, and he just gives her, he's like, I'll pay you, I'll just pay you. And so he could continue sitting like that, looking like a badass. And he's like 14 doing that. You know what I mean? Like, he's like 14, I think. So it's like if you're gonna have someone who's a villain, like it feels like Dalen is a mock villain. Like, he's not actually evil. He pretends to be evil. Like, I feel like he hasn't played, like, he says he's a gamer, but he hasn't really looked into the depth of writing as a villain, or like making a villain good. Like a redemption story would be like maybe playing Final Fantasy 13 too. You have to do more research. He's clearly not done more research, and I think a lot of books don't do enough research. But also, even though this is a world building critique, I did want to point out that just because there's flaws in the world building doesn't mean that all of it is bad. In this instance, yes, it is bad. But just because there's some that's not perfect, it doesn't need to be perfect, because people are there for the characters. At the end of the day, unless it's like a big glaring thing, like you have child workers involved and they're not getting paid and all this other stuff and very mature stuff that you don't want to, that you're implementing, and you're not implementing it for a reason. It's the same thing with grape. If you implement grape, you have to have it mean something. It has to do something. It has to be a plot purpose. You can't just institute it and then leave it. Like, I read a book called the Ice Fire Trilogy. It was terrible. It read like an AOL roleplay log, and there was male grape in it, and I waited the entire book hoping to see what would become of it. And you know what became of it? The victim graped the guy who graped him, and he was like, "Oh my god, this is so great." I was like, "You mean to tell me I read all this book just to come to this?" Like, that's the worst. That was probably one of the worst books I ever read. Willingly, because it looked like it was cool on the outside, because I was looking for like a, if there's any readers in my audience and you have like a ice world fantasy something, put it in the comment section. I have a hard time finding them, and there's almost none of them because people don't do them. Comment section, please. I'll appreciate you. But anyway, Dalen's a Mary Sue. He's too special. The world sucks. Needs more work. But I don't think he's going to do any more work to it. He's doing a graphic novel, so he's not interested. And that's pretty much all I have to say. If you guys really enjoyed this, please subscribe to my channel. I think I would like to do more videos like this. Maybe about video games, maybe about other books. Mostly because I think this is fun. I think this is really fun. And like, maybe I would do a popular book that is really beloved by people, but you need to give me time. And if you have a suggestion of something you'd like me to read or something you'd like me to look over and see if it's interesting, also leave it down in the comments. I love reading fantasy books, so I'm here for it. And if you want more about my world that I talk about in these videos, feel free to follow me over on my Patreon. That's also something that I have if you guys want super little special things, because I'm working on a light novel. And if you stayed all the way to the end, comment with any emoji that's like one of the hearts. Any of the hearts. You know what? No. We have to get a specific one. Let me find one. Okay, I got it. If you've done it, comment with a dolphin. And I know that you actually stayed all the way to the end. So please like this video. Please share it with other people. I worked really hard on this, and I just want to know what you think. Just like with the other ones. I'm trying to get monetized on this channel, so hopefully this video will do it for me. And I will see you guys next time. Oh, I'm going to come out with an Inktober video as well. Bye.